Have you ever been in a meeting and you feel that quiet shift, that subtle tension the second a leader walks in?
Oh, absolutely. The whole atmosphere just changes.
It does. It doesn't matter if they're a CEO, a team lead, or, even a volunteer coach. People sort of sit up a little straighter.
And everyone in that room, whether they realize it or not, is asking the same question.
What kind of power just walked through that door? Is it here to build or is it here to, well, to dominate?
And that question is so critical right now. I mean, we're living in an era where trust in leadership is thinning fast.
Right.
And the sources we've looked at are all pointing to the same thing. Power isn't judged by a title anymore. It's judged by its impact, purely by its moral and practical impact on people.
Which brings us to this really counterintuitive truth we found. Power was never actually meant to be a weapon. Not for self-protection, not for coercion.
That's the whole premise of this deep dive. Power in its purest form was designed to be a stewardship, a responsibility. But so many leaders confuse authority that demands compliance.
With authority that actually inspires trust. Real, proactive trust.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to unpack that difference. We're going to get into the foundations of influence and figure out how to lead with, genuine humility and service.
And why doing that isn't just a nice idea, it's probably the single most strategic move a leader can make today.
Okay, so let's challenge the default assumption right out of the gate. If you ask most people about power, they'll talk about assertion, control, protecting their position.
It's a survival mechanism, right? Especially in high-pressure environments.
Totally. But what is real authority, the lasting kind, actually grows when you introduce humility, when it's less about control over people and more about creating an environment for them to flourish.
That is the fundamental reframing. And it starts with how we even define power.
Yeah.
It's not dominance, it's capacity.
Capacity. Okay, what do you mean by that?
The ability to act, to create, to shape, to protect, to lead. It's the raw potential you have to influence an outcome.
So capacity, not coercion. That's a sharp distinction.
It's everything. If you go way back to the sources, like Genesis 1.28, the word used for rule is the Hebrew rada. And when you look at how that word is used, it's not tyrannical. It's more like managing or cultivating.
Like a gardener tending to a garden to make sure it thrives.
Precisely. The job description for power was to cultivate and steward, not to exploit. So power is a resource you're entrusted with for the benefit of other people. It's not leverage you own over them.
And that shift from ownership to stewardship, it doesn't make you weaker. The sources say it actually multiplies your credibility.
1,000%. Leaders who act as stewards are seen as legitimate, as ethical. And that is a massive performance advantage. You don't have to waste energy forcing people to comply.
They contribute willingly.
They want to. And you see this playing out right now. The organizations that are winning are flattening their hierarchies. They're demanding transparency.
And they're rewarding leaders who balance that authority with real empathy and clarity with humility.
Right. And if you ignore that, if you just lead by command and control, the cost is immediate.
Your best people leave, trust evaporates, and your actual influence it shrinks, no matter how big your office is.
So what's really fascinating is understanding why power gets distorted in the first place.
That's if you're wrong.
It happens when it gets detached from its intended character. You can almost hear that serpent's whisper in the garden,
You will be like God.
Yes. But the key part is apart from him. The moment power is seen as this self-generated thing you own, it just twists. It becomes a tool for self-protection, for self-definition.
So it's not that power itself is evil, it's more like a magnifying glass.
It's a mirror. That's the key insight. Power doesn't change you, it just reveals and amplifies what's already in your heart. You give someone authority and suddenly their insecurities, their fears, it all comes to the surface under pressure.
We see that so clearly in the contrast between Saul and David. Two leaders, both handed immense power.
And their reactions tell you everything. Saul is the classic case of someone who clings to power. He started out humble, but then he got addicted to the control.
And when he felt threatened by David's popularity,
he just grasped tighter. He wouldn't repent. He resented anyone else's success. His power just exposed this deep, crippling insecurity.
I think we've all seen a modern version of that. The micromanager who's afraid their team will outshine them, or the boss who hoards information because it feels like job security.
Exactly. Now, compare that to David. David had chances, multiple chances, to just take the throne, to kill Saul.
And he refused.
He surrendered the timeline. He trusted that authority was something borrowed, not something he could just force into existence. For David, power revealed a deep trust.
But let me ask the question I know is on a lot of people's minds. Isn't there a risk here? If you don't assert control, especially in a crisis, don't you risk the whole team losing faith in you? Where's the line between stewardship and just being passive?
That's a crucial distinction. Stewardship isn't passivity at all. It's intentionality. David wasn't passive. He was actively leading his men, protecting Saul, serving with integrity. The difference is the motive. A passive leader avoids hard decisions out of fear. A steward leader makes the tough calls. They'll cut the budget, they'll correct poor performance, but they do it to protect the health of the whole system, not to protect their own ego.
That distinction really makes the leadership model of Jesus even more radical. He just shattered every cultural expectation of power at the time.
Completely. Rome celebrated dominance, the religious leaders celebrated status, and he just inverted all of it.
His authority was born in servanthood.
I mean, he washed their feet, an act reserved for the lowest slave. He used his authority to lower himself in order to elevate others.
And those temptations he faced in the wilderness, they weren't small things. They were the three big temptations of power that you see in every executive suite today.
They map perfectly. The first one, use power to satisfy yourself. That's the temptation to chase perks, to exploit resources for your own comfort.
The second, use power to impress others. The obsession with vanity metrics, with quarterly applause instead of long-term value.
Exactly. And the third, use power to seize control, bypass the hard ethical process and just grab the result. He refused every single one.
And then you have the cross, which is the ultimate example of power used rightly. In a world that screams, protect yourself, assert yourself, he chose self-sacrifice.
That's the highest expression of stewardship. True authority is measured by how willingly you lay it down for the flourishing of others. And we see this over and over. Look at Solomon's early reign.
Right.
His leadership thrived because when God asked him what he wanted, he didn't ask for wealth or long life. He asked for wisdom, for discernment. Why? To serve and govern the people justly.
Service came first.
It had to. And look at Joseph in Egypt, second most powerful man in the world. He could have easily taken revenge on his brothers.
Instantly.
But he used his massive authority to save nations from famine. In every one of these cases, leadership is stewardship for the community. It's never ownership for the self.
Okay, so let's unpack this for the listener. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a really strategic way to lead. It fuels innovation, loyalty, stability. The difference between leaders who rule and leaders who empower is, well, it's decisive.
Absolutely. We can distill it into a simple transformational framework. Authority leads to responsibility, which is expressed through servanthood, and that results in impact.
Authority, responsibility, servanthood, impact. Okay, so how do we actually do that? Let's talk about what the sources call holy power versus worldly power. What are the practical characteristics?
Okay, first is humility. And this isn't about acting shy or weak. Humility here means clarity. It's the secure refusal to make leadership about your own self-image.
So it's about owning your mistakes quickly, publicly.
Yes, and genuinely soliciting your team's successes without feeling like it diminishes you.
Okay, that's number one. What's second?
Accountability. This is the essential guardrail. Power without accountability always drifts toward corruption. Accountability interrupts that drift. It names your blind spots.
It forces you to answer for how you're using your influence.
Exactly. And the third is love. And in a leadership context, love means actively wanting the best for your people and the organization. It's the engine that turns power from coercion into a force for blessing.
So the sources laid out 4 really powerful, actionable shifts leaders can make. Let's contrast them. Manager A, the authoritarian, versus Manager B, the steward.
Okay, shift 1. Manager A enforces rigid control. Manager B replaces that with guidance. You define the why and the what, but you trust your team with the how.
You have to be okay with an 80% solution that they own, rather than a 100% solution you dictated.
That's it. Shift 2. Manager A relies on dominance, their title, their position. Manager B replaces that with influence, and influence only flows through trust.
You earn it by being credible and consistent.
Right. Shift 3. Manager A uses fear to motivate. Fear of failure, fear of consequences. Manager B replaces fear with empowerment.
Because empowered people rise to the occasion, but fearful people, they just shrink from risk.
Exactly. You give them the resources, the autonomy, and the psychological safety to try, fail, and learn.
And the final one, which feels like the most critical ethical guardrail.
It is. Manager A uses power as a shield to protect themselves from blame and criticism. But Manager B uses power to protect the vulnerable, their team, their junior staff, The mission itself, they take the hit so others can thrive.
These shifts aren't subtle at all. They're a total reorientation of why you have authority in the first place. So as you think about your own sphere of influence, whether that's a global company or just your family or even your own schedule, you have this core choice every single day. Will you default to domination or will you choose stewardship?
Because the sources make it crystal clear.
The real measure of your leadership, your real strategic advantage, is the growth and flourishing of the people you're responsible for.
And we'll leave you with this final thought, building on that idea that power always magnifies what's inside. What if you took a moment to audit the subtle, everyday ways you use your influence?
Like who gets your immediate attention or how quickly you share credit.
Or even who you really listen to in a meeting? And ask yourself, is this small act revealing a hidden insecurity that needs control? Or is it demonstrating a genuine, peaceful trust in the people and the process around you? Think about how those tiny choices are shaping your real authority.